Hello and welcome all my viewers to your own channel, Dubai Desert Driving Etiquettes and Techniques. My name is Rahim Dad and I'm bringing an interview to you today from the real Superman of the desert. So let's head into the interview.
So it's good to be on the channel. It's an honor. I'm honored, and I'm happy that you started a channel where we could share our past experiences. All of us maybe one day would be able to sit together, all the old friends, and uh, rejoice the good old times. I hope, inshallah.
Inshallah, surely that's amazing. So I started the channel was basically, if you see my first few videos, it's to educate the newer people who want to go out into the desert, who are scared. So I want to show you the side of Superman here, that he too was new at one time. In fact, coming to that, do you remember uh, why you joined the desert in the first place?
Yeah, it's the main actual reason that I joined the desert was maybe so that 18 years later I could give this interview. I'm joking. So it all started with me purchasing a Jeep Wrangler 2006 TJ yellow with a black rooftop back in 2006 for my wife, Noreen. I'll honorable mention because she had a big hand in letting me go off road in her vehicle, which she used to daily drive, break, repair, build, modify, lots of things. Yeah. So I remember 2006. I think I purchased the Jeep Wrangler with no intentions whatsoever, and I would not even go into a place where there was no tarmac. Yeah. So I didn't want to put my car in the sand, and I'm very finicky about my cars. So I'd like to keep them mint. I'd like to keep them the way I took them from the showroom or better. And so my biggest fear I think was going into the sand itself, which ultimately I think the first time I ever entered the sand was in 2007.
And that's with the influence of family and friends then.
That was completely under your influence. So I'll be honest. So Rahim Bhai has been very supportive, and we've had a lot of good times. Always. Like I think when you're younger siblings, you fight with each other. I remember him rearranging my face at times. Yeah, but that's all good. Yeah, so it's all good because I think that kind of used to get me irate. I used to stay away from him, and then I used to learn self-learning that I could not stay away from him. So I'd go kiss and make up always. He never said sorry. No, but ultimately that's what led to I became very good friends with my own brother, and we never had to look for friendship outside. Yeah, we had friends, we had family, uh, but I think we had a very close bond. So back in the day, I don't exactly remember the year, but he started expeditions in the wadis. I think not desert actually, but wadis. So he'd slip on rocks. He didn't have a capable vehicle. At least I wouldn't call it capable at all. Uh, and the way he used to tell me his stories. So he's been a good storyteller all along. So the way he used to tell me his stories got me kind of thinking. I mean, why would someone want to risk such a big part like a car? As he used to go out with his family to these places, and but he learned very quickly that he wanted to get into off-roading, and that's actually what pulled me into off-roading because Rahim bhai, first and foremost, and without a doubt, any other person probably wouldn't have convinced me because I have very strong point of views. But yeah, Gurmeet, a gentleman, a friend of mine in trading and prices, the dealership for Jeep Wranglers, we used to maintain the vehicle with. He'd whisper into my ears every time I take the car in for a service or modifications. He'd be like, You're building your car for nothing. I mean, you need to be off roading, you need to go out, you need to, before you do any more mods." And by the time I've already done about 20 mods to the Jeep Wrangler, He said, before you do any more mods, at least get a feel of your vehicle, see what it can do, stock, learn your capabilities, and then build up, build on. Nobody's stopping you. And I think that was the stepping day for me when they took me out to the desert, sandy area.
I recall that. Let's introduce you to him as Superman of the Desert. His name is Karamullah. He is my brother. And so, my next question to you is, do you remember your first drive? And what were your fears and how you overcame those fears?
Okay, so if you ask me, it's not just because he's my brother. I'll give you my honest opinions always. I'm known for speaking out the truth, being straightforward, and so a lot of people hate me, but that's okay. I love haters, yeah. They're the only people who make you grow, make you learn, make you know better. So the point I was coming to, yeah, was Rahim Bhai has always been, whether he accepts it or not, he's always been a leader. He has that quality. A leadership quality. And so the first time they took me to the desert, I remember it was a patch of sand. I mean, yeah, it was a long patch of sand. And so I think the idea behind that was they didn't actually want to scare me of the desert, but enjoy that drive enough so I can step into the place again with an open mind, open heart. And yeah, so they didn't scare me at all. It was a comfortable experience. It was an easy drive. If you ask me today, it was almost as good as driving on tarmac. Yeah, just a little up and maybe speed breakers, but yeah, nothing intermediate or like something that would kind of put me back. That's the kind of the drive we went on. I remember.
Yeah, that's the first drive. But then, my second part of the question: when you started off-roading, what did was there anything that scared you? And if something that did scare you, what it was and how you overcome that fright?
Of course, I'm Superman, yeah, so nothing's supposed to scare me. But yeah, then all of a sudden I had a moment of realization, and the thing that scared me the most was uncertainty. That has been a part of me in my life as well. I like everything to be planned, executed to perfection. And if there's a gray area where I don't know what lies beyond, there's uncertainty. And wherever uncertainty is involved, that kind of scares me. Yeah? So I remember the first few drives, apart from the first drive that we did, the first few drives that we did, my biggest apprehension was crossing the dune, yeah? So I'd go up, like I'd be all confident. By the time I reached the top, I hit my brakes hard because I didn't know if there was another car in front of me, if there was somebody camping out. And that kind of was the biggest apprehension I faced in the first. And this is not like the first drive, the second drive, the third drive. I did it well into my intermediate drives. Like I'd just brake for no reason at all. I overcame that later with a lot of words of wisdom, radio messages coming across the everybody telling me to man up. I was a man, but then I do feel responsible for if I wouldn't have forgiven myself if I was to hit somebody or to cause anybody any kind of damage, any kind of damage, God forbid. So that was my biggest apprehension.
Yeah, so I guess I think this is the fear among all new off-roaders. Even I felt that fear crossing dunes, medium to big dunes, because yeah, you don't know what's on the other side until you've done a few times, and then you know it's sand on the other side as well.
I'll tell you something if you didn't realize. There are people who are afraid of deflating their tires. But this what my warranty? Will it do something to my car? How am I going to fill up? What am I going to do? So there are a lot of apprehensions, and that's understood. It's okay. It's the first time that somebody steps into out of his comfort zone, and so there are all the seniors, trip leaders. There's morning hurdles, like whatever time the drive is, you'd have a hurdle where you'd introduce all the members, all the senior members, who other people could look up to for help and otherwise. But yeah, a lot of people have even silly apprehensions. Like nothing is silly. You're learning, so it's a curve. For me, I didn't fear anything else. That my biggest apprehension was jumping the car, which I had all four tires in the air at one time during the night drives, and I overcame that apprehension. But because everything was in front of me, even the jump, I could see all the cars, I could see all the people around. I knew where to land, I knew what to do, and that area had already been cleared because I'd jumped my car a couple of times before that. So yeah, my biggest fear was jumping to the other side at a speed which I could not control, and accidents bound to happen, could happen, not bound to happen, could happen. And in instances when we were in the desert, we learned of instances and accidents that were irreversible. I mean, the damage is done. I heard that somebody in an FJ cruiser once jumped onto a quad bike with the person sitting on that quad bike. I mean, come on, Jesus, man. That's terrible. I wouldn't have. I think I would have probably lost my senses. That God forbid. Alhamdulillah, Allah has always protected all of us. But there's a certain responsibility that you carry when you enter a sport. Yeah, you don't want to be reckless with somebody else's life. And things can happen. So I remembered this one instance that I think we were on fire. You mentioned it the last recording. I'll mention it this time because now I remember. And we were coming from the top, and it's just like a ditch that goes completely like. And I was trying to turn my vehicle left and right in every way I could, or try to uh, press on, hold on to dear life, and press my brakes, because right in front of me was a bush, not a tree, but an overgrown bush, and I saw myself go straight into that bush, and I had no control over my car because the sand was soft. It was summers. It was summers. All the sand was soft as hell. There was no traction, and I just went huddling into that bush. And my wife is looking at me, and that was the first time I think I got a whack, at the back of my hand, and I had to actually. There was no other option. You could not have a recovery like pull me back with another car. That was impossible. I couldn't turn right. I couldn't go left. The only option I had was to drive over that bush, overgrown bush, and so I put my car in low gearing, and I just gave it all the beans, yeah, and I went and it went out. Alhamdulillah. Nothing serious happened actually. Nothing serious happened even undercarriage, because I think Wranglers and off-roaders are built with a purpose that they deliver. Even had it been another off-roader, it would probably delivered. You can have skid plates, yeah. So that's another given. I think he would have already mentioned it, but if he hasn't, let me be the smart aleck and tell you that you can have a skid plate which can protect your transmission and everything that's under your rig. Apart from that, he mentioned the last video. Now I remember, so I'll mention it to you. Is one of the other members. I would not like to name him. Not really very close relation or friend like Zishan, Ghazanfar, and others. He drove his car into a tree, man. Were you?
I will mention his name, Sikandar Bhai. He is a very good friend of ours, and we are picnicking on top of Big Fall, and coming down, he told us every one of us that we should stick to one path, so tread lightly, and then he tried to use another path, and all of a sudden there's a tree in front of him. And I had to use my 5.7 Hemi. He'll remember it. I had to use my 5.7 Hemi just to, kind of destroy that tree for him to be able to come down safely. So yeah, I do remember that. And this was one of the clubs we drove with. You became Superman for the club, in the club. Yeah, I mean, everybody used to call you Superman.
I wish I would have done merchandises back then. Yeah, I would have earned some money out of it.
Yeah, so do you remember how you got that name? I think some kids or something started calling you Superman, was it?
There were actually different names given to me back then. So I put my car off high, off low. I just go two wheel, rear wheel action, and I drift the car around like a monkey. Yeah, so there's some of the kids start calling me Drift King, and everybody used to gather around their cars, and people who didn't want to drift their rigs would just gather around, and the families would have a good time, and so they started calling me Drift King. I don't know at what point or what I had done to deserve the title, but I enjoyed the title. So, so I started getting Superman shirts and merchandise, and I started flaunting the Superman brand of things. I don't know how I got that name, honestly. Two six.
So we were the first brothers in a certain club to make it to Marshal status in just 8 months. The first two
6.
brothers.
6.
Okay, we'll take it as 6 months. If he says 6, he remembers it better. So 6 months we made it to Marshal status in one of. Can you remember the feeling you had after you got promoted as a marshal?
Yes, basically, this is everything in my life is whether you get promotions, demotions, whether you get praised or criticized. This is all a part of your efforts, but then it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I never had a big chest about being a marshal in 6 months, and it never got to my head. I was never airy about it, but I think it was away from what the norm was for clubs to do in those days. Back in the day, you need to have a lot of experience, which we gathered in a very short time. Say, for example, we had Fridays and Saturdays off, so we dwell into the desert Thursday night, do the morning drive on Fridays, and do the afternoon drives on Fridays, then do evening drives on Fridays, then do the night drives on Fridays, then do the Saturday morning drives, and anything in between that we pleased to do. And so we had a lot of drives under our belt, I suppose. That meant to our credit. The other thing I clearly remember for the criteria for becoming a marshal is, I'm just giving an example. Say, for example, there are 200 incidences, and most of these handled by the four, the Fantastic Four, Zishan, Ghazanfar, Rahimdad Baijan, and me, of course. So we dash to all these incidents. Like, even if we are way ahead of the crew and it's not our area, we'd still turn our cars behind, and people in that vicinity where the incident was reported would be sitting in their cars and their comfortable ACs, and we'd be digging sand, getting the car prepped for putting the straps on, recovery, tire pop-outs, inflations. I don't know, anything and everything that we attended most of these incidences, and so I guess it was nice of the club to give us that promotion, to recognize our efforts, and I think that's what it should be. It's a two-way traffic. So we, as being members, we need to be loyal to the club, outperform, try and be there as much as we can, and then the club rewards you ultimately. It wasn't the norm back in the day. No. But after we accomplished what we accomplished, I think it became the norm. So then there were a lot of other people who put in efforts, and I remember Ninju. I mean, that was his alias on the forum. His real name was Usman, so he graduated pretty quick. I think he's the one I used to partner with on all the drives that never happened. But then we were talking about this as off-roaders, as being part of a fraternity, you need to follow certain disciplines and certain etiquettes in the sense rules. And the rule was nobody goes out alone, like for a drive, yeah. And most of the seniors would, I think, after we introduced the system of the drive that never happened. I think Ninju and I used to head out in the nights, leave daytime alone. We used to head out in the nights, and we used to be stuck, and we used to be whatever, but we dwell into the desert well after 12 and come out in the mornings, and we'd be glad that we made it out alive. And the first time I ever posted that post, drive that never happened, and everybody took to it. Like, it became a trend in the club, and everybody wanted to go out in like 2 cars and 3 cars, and the groups got smaller, but there was more fun. There was more engagement, I guess. So everybody didn't want to stay home all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good mention that we used to have these, as Karamullah calls it, the drives that never happened. And he was the one to introduce it. We used to call up. I remember I used to come to his place, and he used to call up 4 of the friends, including Zishan and Gazamfar, who are also brothers, also made Marshals with us. And we used to just go out for these drives that never happened. Means they were never posted on, nobody knew about them. Just called, you're in the mood, let's go, let's meet up in an hour at this meeting point. And we drive through to the point wherever the drive was starting, announced in the club. That's what that was. And so my next question to you. You always wanted to bring a change. You always wanted to do something different. And so I remember you started these mango drives. Can you tell the audience something about the mango drive?
Okay, so this then became a part of the club. Every time summers hit, it was mango season, and we get mangoes from Pakistan. And for some reason, I was a stuck-up snob, and I get my mangoes from Spinneys. Yeah, so I bought mangoes worth about $500 overnight, and we thought we were making a milkshake and juice out of the mangoes, and we stuffed them in about 12 Aquafina 1.5 liter bottles, and we took it to the drive the next day, and everybody was overfull on the drive, and they were about to throw up, so everybody kind of rested at that point, and they made it clear there was neither shake nor juice. It was more of a puree. So I think half of the members would take it home to prepare things for themselves, and we couldn't finish the entire thing, including me. Yeah, I had that thing, but yeah, okay. So another mango drive that I remember was in Faka, and somebody's farm that people took permission from, and they had a pond. Yeah, they had a small pond. Where a pond, or what would you call that?
It was basically like a swimming pool.
Yeah, basically.
And we used to ask them prior to fill it with the water.
Yes.
So we could just dip our legs and sit in it.
And we packed it in with about 6 packs of ice, and then we put all the mangoes in, because of course during the day, the entire drive, everything became super hot, and within 10 minutes I think the mangoes were at a temperature that you enjoy the delicacies
and around in the pool.
Yeah. So yeah, you just had to dig in. Yeah, you put your hands in, and I think a lot of people learned the actual way of having mangoes, which is pretty disgusting.
Yeah, that's a talk for another day. So you always like the mango drive. You always had an idea that you wanted to do something different, not just drive and eat. So not just a morning drive with breakfast, or an afternoon drive with lunch, or a night drive or evening drive with a dinner.
Yeah,
so always
eating wasn't basically a dream come true for me. Like, I mean, there are more things that you can accomplish.
True, but that club you had like this, we eat together, we stay together. And so on every drive, everybody had plenty of things to eat. But you always had this vision, and you did announce that vision of having some sort of an event where teams would come together, and not a serious competition, but a competition among friends, just to see, like, which team kind of comes up on top.
True.
And so one of the things I remember we did together was to put together a treasure hunt where there were teams involved with either Marshal, a crew, or with an intermediate driver, a newbie, and a FUB, and the team leader would have to go along and take all these people along with them to the finish line for them to win this event. When we did that event, and you saw the completion of the event the first time. This ran for 4 years in a row.
Yes.
But after the completion of the first one, and you saw it come through, what were your feelings then? Because your voice was heard, your vision was put to good use.
As far as I remember, a little differently. The moment I posted this suggestion of having an event that actually it was more of uh, usually 30 to 40 cars that would participate in a drive, and everybody did not have the same equations. So when we divide people into groups and they have to perform as a team, it created an adhesion. They came together, they developed a bond, they developed a relationship. So I remember in the latter drives, there would be more of like a kind of
Bonding.
socialization. Earlier, you had individual
Divides.
groups, and maybe based on your languages, countries, etc. This thing made everything come together. So, like you said, like you rightfully mentioned, so there were different skill sets that people would come in with, starting with a newbie, which I think Raimdad Bhajan would have explained. Newbie is a person who's new to the desert, doesn't know much, has not had much exposures, has very few drives under the belt, is probably familiar with the basics, but he's never ultimately tested or honed his skills to that level, which this event would enable them to do. And a lot of people became better at just simply off-roading, because I don't remember exactly suggesting a treasure hunt. I think that was your baby. But yeah, the event or having such a kind of a friendly but competitive thing was my brainchild. But treasure hunt, I think, was completely yours. It's nothing that I had to do with. I supported the drive. We went for Marshal runs together on days you would not imagine. Zero visibility, peak summers, sandstorms, and we didn't know where to. But yeah, that actually brought out the best of us in quite a even within the team. So the person heading the team would at least not at least, I mean, that's an advanced skill. He'd have to know how to read the terrain that you're treading on. You had to know the desert. You need to know how to navigate from point A to point B, because there'd be clues.
And completing those challenges on the way.
For sure. So the senior most was the only person that the team would have to look up to, because he'd have completed a lot of drives. He'd be aware of a lot of locations where you're getting clues, and then you have to decode those clues to guess the location, like Big Red, Pink Rocks, Fossil Rocks. I mean, it spanned all the way across, I think, about 200 kilometers, if not less. And 200 kilometers, or maybe I'm wrong, but 200 kilometers is the desert is like 1,200 kilometers, yeah, in on your tarmac. So it was a full day event. The sun set it in. It was fun. The prize distribution happened. A lot of people came together. A lot of people were able to advance their skill set, improve their socialization within the club. A lot of people who weren't friends became friends. They came together. It was a brotherhood. It was an event that would bring people together for the next 4 years. Of course, there has to be hiccups. There has to be people wanting to take the credit for these things, etc. There were all kind of hurdles, but I think the next 4 years that we spent with the club, I was looking forward to these Marshal runs. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for enlightening us on that. That was your brainchild, but taking your idea and developing it into an event,
Yes.
that was definitely something that I enjoyed very much. Also, like we're having such a nice discussion. I'm loving it. I hope all the audience is loving it too. Um, one very particular incident comes to mind, because I've led a lot of trips, and say from Tavineswa, the farms, to Pink Rock, with a convoy is about 1.5, 2 hours. And from Pink Rocks to Big Red is another hour and a half to 2 hours. With a playtime around Pink Rocks and a playtime around Big Red, it would span to about 3.5, maybe going to 4 hours. Yeah, but you know this area very differently. Tell us a little about that. Just the two of us. Tell us, no stacks,
Yeah.
no refusals, and what a pleasant drive that was.
So this was, I think, one of the most. Although I had a record of, I don't want to be boasting, but I had a record of not getting stuck.
Ah, yeah.
Uh, a
In
lot of
those
times,
areas, yeah.
very little refusals or stucks that I had in the desert. Alhamdulillah, thanks to Allah, praise Allah. But I remember out of curiosity, I think Remdad Bhajan's car was out for servicing or repair or something. And I looked at Rahim Bhai and I said, man, you don't have your four-wheel, but I want to go to the desert. And he said, yeah, sure, I'd like to go to the desert too. So we jumped into the Wrangler, just the two of us. We deflated at Tavi Nazar like we
The
usually,
bumps, yeah.
like we usually would. Honest to God, there was no intention of ruining people's records or breaking plateaus or shit. But like we sat in, we started from Tavi Nazar where we looked at the time, it was about 2:15, 15 past 2. And so we traveled from Tavinazwa to Pink Rocks, but it depends on the crew that you're traveling with. Yeah, so just the two of us, the Jeep Wrangler, we knew we didn't have anybody to look after our behinds. And so we started Tavinazwa to Pink Rocks and non-stop. Like, I mean, I didn't want to stop on Pink Rocks because that was customary and we didn't want to do anything customary. So we just wanted to cover as much area as we could and get the most sand in our systems and get the hell out of there in good time. And from Pink Rocks, we headed straight to Big Red. Big Red, yeah? Big
And
Red.
playing through the dunes.
Yeah. And I was on top of Big Red. And Remdad Bhajan looked at his watch and said, what the hell just happened? Like, I think we completed the entire drive in like 45 minutes. And he was bragging about it to, I think, the entire club there. I was like, what the? And no, everybody was in disbelief. So back in the day, I didn't do a lot of like videos that I did with my bikes and super bikes. But so I don't actually have a footage. And people still don't believe that we did what we did. But it actually happened, yeah. It's the drive that never happened, but it happened.
Yeah, you were always the one to create, different. So once you're out of the club, you started your own WhatsApp group. Do you remember the name of that group and how you got it together?
I honestly don't remember the exact name, but I remember it was something to do with 4x4.
Was it Never Been Off-Road? Never Been Off-Road?
Yeah, the drive. I don't know.
Never Been Off-Road. That was the
I
name.
think it was, yeah. So a part of this club was Remdad Bhajan, of course, me, myself, a close knitted group of friends, family, who had a common vision, who had a common interest in, and they were friends of mine who'd never been to the desert. Yeah, I had an animal. His name was Rana Abdullah. So he was an anti-social kind of a person. He'd never want to go into groups. He'd never want to kind of meet people. He was kind of an introvert. Not amongst us. Amongst us, I think he was the most cheerful person I'd ever known in my life. I mean, the way he used to narrate his stories, you'd crack up laughing every 5 minutes, and his expressions, and so that gave me an opportunity to kind of get him out of his nutshell, get him into meeting people to better his future opportunities. I don't know how to say it. It's in life. It's not just off-roading, yeah. But so he became a part of the group. My brother-in-law Atif, whom I think I'm the closest to, would join into the drives. Noreen's, as I mentioned, my wife's youngest brother Ali would come into those drives. My Zafar Bhai was the eldest brother to Noreen. His son, his elder son, Ayush used to come in for the drives. And we just grew in. We were about, I don't remember who others were amongst the WhatsApp group. But yeah, it was like either calls or more conveniently those WhatsApp groups is anybody having an itch even on a working day would send a text and we'd be in the desert by 11, out by 4, get home by 5, take our showers and be in the work, be at work. Like we crazy. So we do it and we do it repetitively for months to come till we collapsed and we would not answer the WhatsApp group. But yeah, so the interest, the passion continued. So obviously you would have ambiguities within the group. There were certain things that seemed to be out of order. A few, I wouldn't call them crackheads, but they behave like crackheads. A lot of opposition to someone growing within the group, or a lot of like don't need to mention, but then end of the day I'd still appreciate the fraternity because we learned a lot from there. We honed our skills. They gave us a platform, they gave us an opportunity. Things can go wrong, it's just human nature. They want to be competitive, they cannot see anyone going up, or maybe not even on those lines, but we learned a lot from the fraternity. So that I'd be grateful to, I think, all the members who accommodated us in the beginning when our skills weren't exactly polished. There were a lot of times that they put up with a lot of things, and we learned to do that in magnitude. Like we learned to take in shortcomings. We learned to take in. We learned to accept that everybody is not going to be fearless. Everybody is not going to be a pro within 6 months. We learned to handle that situation, I guess. So yeah, so we had that WhatsApp group, and it was good while it lasted. But yeah, we all that's what the lesson to learn here is. Life goes on. It's not that is why sometimes when you have misunderstandings and you behave in a certain way with people, a lot of the elders would tell you this is not going to be forever. Like you're not going to be in this position forever. He, she, it, they, them might not be in that position forever. So just bury your hatchet, live a peaceful life, be happy, help where you can. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm going to sway a little away from the topic. But then the place where I used to live in, so this was directly connecting to Dubai, and I parked my car in my building. I had 2 or 3 parkings at that time, and I had 2 or 3 vehicles, bikes, etc. And I'd be in my balcony. I'd be looking for an excuse to like kind of jump into my 4 wheel and help somebody out, because there was a sand patch that connected the Sharjah Nahda side to the Dubai Nahda side, and people would just park their cars across Dubai to in the Dubai side when the parking wasn't paid, and that would save them a lot of time commuting from the Searing Road and reaching even that point. Like it exactly save you about 45 minutes to an hour. And so a lot of people would park on the Dubai side, and there was no paid parking, so there was no hassle of parking your car overnight or day or not reporting to the office. But then they'd walk from this patch there, and a few of the people with 4-wheel drives would kind of childishly get stuck in these spots, yeah, and then we deflate and we do self recoveries, and they'd be amazed, and we'd introduce them to the club. So why don't you come over? And they became a part of the club. A few of them won't, of course. But it was a fun period. So I used to be in the balcony, and as soon as somebody got stuck, so I'd rush to my Jeep, I'd start up my Jeep, I'll go all the way to the Dubai side, help them out, and they'd be looking at me, "Did you want $50, $100? I'm like, I don't do this for money, it's passion. Yeah, so I park my car, I leave it in Dubai side, and I'll come walking home. And mostly not drive back. And there was a night that miraculously 3 people got stuck. One of them got stuck, being a kid, and the other one jumped in to help and didn't have any knowledge whatsoever. He got stuck. And then there was another one. And I was like, wow, this is a gold mine, man. I mean, I get to show off my skills every. No, but then it was just the helping nature, I guess. What we learned from the club, what we paid forward in that understanding. I remember once we were in Ibn Battuta Mall, Noreen and I was watching a movie. And the gentleman Gurmeet, I was talking about earlier in Trading Enterprises, he called me and he said, "Where the hell are you?" I said, "I'm in on the other side of the world. Where are you?" He said, "I'm in Omal Cohen, and the quicksand got one of the cars. I need you for the recovery." And we'd never really refused. So it was the first time I think I ever walked out of a movie like theater, and we went there, and that was a totally different ball game, and it was a saloon. So we went there. I tried to help them. I got stuck a couple of times with the skills that we learned. Got out of trouble, self recovery, turned back, came back, followed what they advised me to do, and I tried to kind of pull them from the back. And the car was so badly stuck in the quicksand, the entire rear section of the car fucking came out. I mean, that wasn't funny. You should have seen the looks on everyone's face. And I just looked at Gurmeet and I said, "Man, it's about 4:45 in the morning. I'm tired. I'm knackered from the drive. I have an office tomorrow." I don't think we made it to the office. But yeah, that was one of the adventures.
Yeah, it's such a rewarding job when you're able to recover someone. But with a saloon, the challenge also stands that there are no proper recovery points. So on 4x4s, you have these recovery points, and that's what I keep talking about. That don't worry about toe balls or toe hooks; those don't help. Your recovery points are welded on and bolted on to your chases of your car. But saloons, you don't have that luxury. So, yeah, there's one or two misfortunes sometimes, but these things do happen. So, yeah, spoke a lot about you trying to help people,
Yes.
but for your own, like, I also talk about self recovery, which is
Yes.
a
Yes.
life saving
It's a
method.
must. It's a
It's
must.
a life saving method. If
Definitely.
you learn how to recover your car by
For
yourself,
sure.
there is no better feeling than taking that time, making that
For sure.
effort, and
For
coming
sure.
out by yourself.
For sure.
Do you remember an incident where you had an amazing recovery which you cannot forget?
Yep. Yep. Many instances, but one that shines the most for me at least. So I used to work in one of the local banks in Dubai outsource zone, and they had a parking system, and there was a patch of like off road. I could say it was worse than a patch of off road. I never realized it till I went in, and I was pretty casual. Till the moment I felt like I was on the accelerator, and I was light on the accelerator. I wasn't like throwing sand unlike some gentlemen who'd like to boss their way around. And I was going pretty slow, and all of a sudden I noticed that my foot is on the accelerator and I've stopped moving completely. And natural instinct kicked in, all the wisdom went off the window, and I floored it, yeah. I floored it bad, and I just saw sand flying all over my car. I was like, oh man, that's a bad situation to get into. But since we had very strict protocols for reporting in on time and leaving awfully late, I just left the car where it was, and I rushed to my office. And by the time I rushed to my office, the sand was so soft that was almost all over my trousers, my shoes, and I was wearing black trousers, yeah. So from far away, it looked like you have these disco pants on, which are black from the top and then white from, and then white shoes, which weren't white exactly. They were black, very much black. I tried dusting myself up because I don't like sitting untidy. Of course, you're in an office environment. You meet a lot of people, yeah, on a formal level, and you can't be looking like that. So I dusted myself. So it took me about half an hour, 45 minutes just to dust myself off completely. By the time I did that, we in for the lunch break, and I never took a lunch break. So my boss was completely shattered. He was like, "Why the hell do you need a lunch break?" I'm like, dude, I have something I need to take care of. And so I had it, and it was summers, it was hot, and that was why the sand was soft. So, anyways, I had it back to the car. I realized all my gear was not in the Jeep at the time. And I started deflating out of natural, like all the wisdom came back in a flash. And I knew I had to do something about the situation. So I started deflating all the tires, and the wheel wells were so hot. And I plugged in my, like, I used different fingers to get the air out of the tires, and I deflated as much as I could, which wasn't good enough. It definitely wasn't down to like 10, 8 psi, because I had bead lock rims. So I could go down to like 5 and they still won't pop out. Just saying. But I think that day I was close to about 25, and I took that for what it was. I got back into my car. I started a trick that I learned from Rainda Bhajan is whenever you get into a situation, try swerving left and right always, yeah, and shake violently. Don't go gentle on your steering. Shake violently, left, right, left, right, left, right. Go front, go back, go front, go back. Anything that would get you a slight movement. And I got lucky. It took me about half an hour, but I self recovered my car. I parked it and I was in a mess again. I was in a white tuxedo all over again. And it was summers. I was sweating like a pig. Anyways, I parked my car, and as I was approaching, there was an Emirates airline headquarter building there. The call center and everything is in the Dubai outsource zone, right next to our office. So I had to cross that, and as I was crossing that, the security guard came up to me and he said, "Salute." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." So he saw the performance, yeah. He's like, "Dude, unbelievable," because the place where I come in from, where our quarters is, and here, I've seen many people get stuck in this situation, and they always call for recovery. I mean, it was the first time that he witnessed a self recovery, and that too, the car was almost like on the bed of the frame, and recovery from that point. I was amazed. I think it was only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who took me out of that situation, but that situation made me a hero in his eyes. He was like, oh dude, I've never seen someone do that, like being in the sand so deep. And I just appreciated the feedback, like the praise that he had for me. I was like, well, all these years in off-roading wasn't wasted. I mean, it ended up in good things, helping people. Just became a part of your life, not just I think off-road or getting stuck recoveries. I'd stop for dead batteries, and I started carrying power banks in my car, and I'd try to help as much as I could, because the universe, it helps you when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps you. The universe helps you when you're in a tough situation and you're remembering him dearly for your life, and somebody comes in. I remember once, you remember that patch, I think you mentioned in one of your videos, where you'd get on Tawun and the traffic wouldn't move, so you had to go off-roading and you had to do a lot of chicanery just to get on the Etihad road. And in those days, I used to travel through the Etihad road, and Etihad road wasn't that bad, but to get to Etihad road, I had to cross all that patch, and I crossed all the sand. Everything happened. I didn't get stuck. It's just the point. And here, I'm mentioning the time when I think the car was stock, or maybe it was lifted. I don't remember. It had smaller tires because I couldn't find the right size for my tires, and it wasn't that widely available back in the day, like specialty tires, what you want for yourself. So we got some tires fixed. Maybe it affected the height of the car, and my transmission just rested on the curb, like, I was like, and even though I wanted to drive it further, the car just won't go anywhere. And the Dubai police was on that road giving a fine to one of the other cars, and he was wanting to come back and give me some sweets. But yeah, I got lucky. An angel, he just I'm sorry, he just came out of nowhere and he said, "You stuck?" I said, "What do you think?" And he pulled off his stuff, and he actually went over the curb. He got me from behind, because if he had pulled me forward, my transmission would have probably been damaged, a lot of damage under the frame. And so to protect my car, he went over the curb knowing that the police was there. He caught me from behind. He said, I cannot let you pull you from up ahead, although it's easy for me, but your car's going to crack like from the damage, and I don't think it'll be drivable. So he actually went up the curb. He went in the sand. He picked me up from behind, and he said, "When I give you 3 horns, it's the racing style in the bay, I guess, yeah. So when I give you 3 horns, give it all you got. Give it all the beans." I say, "Yeah, sure," and keep it in reverse. Don't be a nut head and go D and go the other way. So I gave it all the beans I had. We came off, and then he came to my window and he said, "Oh, no need to thank me. I'm just here doing what I can. When you go off the curb, try to go one wheel at a time, yeah? So you put a car in an angle where the front wheel comes off, and then the other front wheel comes off, and the back comes off, and the other back comes off, and you're okay to go. Don't go head into that was learning as well for me, and I was pretty new to the whole off-road dimension. Yeah, I didn't get stuck in the sand, but that's a place you can get stuck at if you don't know good enough. Even when you want to go up to a curb and park it in the lot, kacha we call it here. I don't know what you want to, like a sand patch. Always go one wheel, one wheel, one wheel, one wheel, and you never get stuck because the angle helps you. So yeah, me being the strong-headed person when facing, and I got stuck bad. Sorry, that was just another thing that I remembered, and very much an apt place for our experience to be shared with you, so you can learn from these things. I mean, not everybody is a born off-roader, but you learn, you develop skills. Sometimes this we call inexpensive learning, yeah, which we never did. So we always wanted to learn the hard way, burn our hands and get to know you shouldn't play with fire, different things. But it's just that you learn, you live, you learn every day. And inexpensive learning would be you guys watching to the end of the video till this point, so you can learn something from our experiences. That we I never bothered watching YouTube back in the day. I think YouTube channels wasn't a thing. 2008, 2010 wasn't that.
See, the thing is, why I started this channel is also for in today's date and time. Also, there are very few channels that cover this part of the world. We have off-roading in US, but most of that off-roading is yes, very much rock crawling. At the same time, whatever deserts, Moab Desert or whatever desert they have, they have completely different means of handling it. They have totally different vehicles than us. They are built differently.
Sure.
Or Australia or South Africa.
Sure.
So one of my reasons to start this channel is to have stuff, to have this kind of content which is based here in Dubai, in the Middle East.
Yep.
And people can relate to it and learn from it.
For sure.
And thank you very much for your point of view. And really, introducing and reiterating whatever lessons I have put on my YouTube channel, reiterating it and saying, yeah, this is, these are the things, this is how you learn. And there's time is the essence. So you're given time to it and regularly. And so you learn and move on and learn something new rather than relearning the same thing over and over again. If you're not regular, it happens that you learn something and then you have to relearn it.
Correct.
But once you're regular, you learned it, you move on, you learn something new.
You keep applying and you keep advancing in the sport that you're interested in. There could be multiple disciplines, but a lesson learned, and I suppose being a sportsman and all that we say, any lessons that you learn from a particular sport could be applied to your life, to any other sport or any other discipline that you want to follow. There's always a certain, yes, there are norms, there are exceptions, but then there are rules to be followed, there are protocols to be followed, there are some things that you need to know. Like we said, carrying water, who would have thought? carrying water, like in the desert, it's something that if you run out of and if you're stuck situation, there's nobody to help you out. Till the time the help reaches, you need to keep hydrated. You need to keep your mind and I remember somebody just they got stuck, a Hummer H3, and they just wandered deep into the desert and they didn't know the navigation back. We put them in our cars, we hydrated them, and that was peak summer days as well. And then we went and we were lucky enough to find the car because they had no idea, they had no GPS navigation, they had no point, and by the time they reached deep into the desert, they didn't know the navigation, like they didn't know the compass, they didn't know where they had coming from and where they're heading to, and everything looked like white sand, just even though the terrain was all up, and but because of the heat, because of the way the terrain had become, it just looked like flat barren land and they couldn't find the vehicle. It was so, keep hydrated, keep food supplies, keep all your first aid kits, I think medicines if you are supposed to be on regular medicines like I am now. Carry your medicines. There are a lot of advancements in medicine as well. You have portable compressors, which you can do your nebulizers with. And if you have allergies and stuff, you might as well reduce the times you enter the desert. Not like, well, we were warriors. Like we just.
So that's a very good point, and you clearly mentioned that um, you know whatever you apply, uh, the solutions in the desert
Yes.
is not or in any sport is not only for the desert or the sport,
Yes.
but you can apply these in your real life.
For sure.
So, can you tell us an example of how you have learned a lesson in the desert, which you are now applying into life and it helps you out?
Sure. Okay, so the answer to this is not complex at all, though we might think it's. I remember getting stuck the first few times when I was new and I didn't know much about. I'm sorry. We didn't know much about self recovery, let's say. So every time we stuck, I thought somebody has to come and pull you out, yeah? Till the time you guided me. He comes up to me once and he's like, "You're stuck." I said, "Yeah, I know." He said, what are you going to do? You take all the precautions, put your car in parking, pull the handbrake, get out of your car, walk around all the four corners. So now you know, now you're assessing uh, what kind of a trouble you are in. I've learned that once you learn the art of self recovery, the possibilities are endless. I mean, if you don't give up, if you keep your patience, keep applying all the little things that you learn from your seniors, you definitely 99.99% I got out of the situation, and I was the king of self recoveries because I'd mess up the most.
I think
So
that's why you got the Superman.
yeah, I guess that, and then uh, I think the tag Superman in real life as well I was given is when I had health adversities and doctors had given up, and I'd come back. Subhanallah, and I don't know whose praise, whose hand is on my head. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has always been kind to me to give me that opportunity that I've always been able to come back despite all the adversities. So yeah, Superman there, and then Superman for self recoveries, I guess. So every adversity comes with an opportunity, right? So now you walked around all the four corners, you know what kind of a situation you are in, you know what kind of measures you're going to be taking. Maybe you need to deflate furthermore, maybe you need to engage into low gears, you need to swerve the steering left, right, snake it out, all that. But then the thing boils down to is there's a complex problem that you're into now, and then you break down, and it's something that we learned in banking and complaint resolution as well, is root cause analysis. What the hell happened? Like, why are you stuck? Where did you go wrong? What did you do wrong? And then you apply the solution that's in your head, and 99.99% it'll work. It'll get you out of that spot. It'll teach you more. Now you have another badge of honor on your shoulders, is I did this. You'll feel more confident the next time you're going to go in off-roading, or you take a certain sandy patch in the backyard of your house to get to work real quick. Different things, and the same can be applied in your life. Yeah. So every time you're in a situation, I think Rahindat Bhajan's point of view, opinion, and mine won't differ in the point that once you're in a situation, instead of digging yourself deeper into that situation, step out. Even say, for example, when we have an argument, if you just back down a bit, you'll find solutions. But if you keep it, it might turn into a heated argument that doesn't have no solutions and seems to be an impossible thing for one person to connect to the other, and you lose connection there. So instead of that, step out of the trouble that you're in your life. Think why you're in the trouble in the first place. Think of all the occurrences that have happened before that. Root cause analysis. Maybe something you did was wrong completely and was not asked for. So maybe in the future you can refrain from doing those things to getting into those situations again and again and again. Like, so yeah, root cause analysis. That's what it teaches you, I guess.
Yeah, very true. And that breaking it down into simpler steps.
Yes.
Like for example, you have to put it in low gear. Maybe you need to apply diff lock. Maybe you can't go front anymore. Maybe you need to reverse out because you have your track on. So the same thing can be applied in life.
True.
In everyday big situations can be broken down into smaller ones.
True.
I agree. That's beautiful. So it's been an absolute pleasure being with you and bringing back those memories, reminiscing on those memories, bringing back. I mean, like for me, I always believe that when you are in a martial situation and you're leading a crowd, you need to go back to a newbie. When you're leading a newbie drive, you have to go back to the mentality of a newbie. You can't expect a newbie to do what you're doing, and slowly, gradually,
You have to put yourself
to
in
go
the
up.
shoes,
Yeah.
basically.
So it was a pleasure, and I would love to hear from you your closing comments, because our viewers, maybe they are experienced off-roaders, maybe they are new, and or maybe they want to step into the sands and want to
For sure,
learn this
for sure.
art. I want to hear your words, what you have to say to them that can encourage them to join the sport.
For sure. So this applies again to life. My life funda has always been to follow your heart. I know I've made mistakes, but looking back at my life, I don't have any regrets. Yes, I've made mistakes. I accept them. I might want to improve them. I have already improved them. I'm working on them. Some mistakes are irreparable. The damage done is done. You can't reverse the damage, but you could in the future do better, make better decisions, learn, uh, follow your heart. So if you definitely are not uh, into the sport, if you do not have a, a, a car, if you have a low budget, there are things that people can talk about. So I suggest to all the viewers that you post in your comments, yeah, any information that you require. Raimdad Bajan is mashallah well experienced now. He knows a lot of troubleshooting himself. He knows potential problems with few model years that have been improved later, or he will have definitely alternatives. So even if you're suffering with a low budget, it doesn't mean that you cannot have fun, follow your heart, learn. You can always make ends meet. You can do it less expensive. uh, Say for example, the Pathfinder video that you just did,
Yeah,
throw in an offer. If it's meant for you, it'll come your way.
absolutely.
Right? Listen to other people. You have questions, always flood his comment box. Yeah, I don't think he's a kind of person who's not going to try to help you in the situation you are in. You have any information, you have any advice that you require on purchasing your next four-wheel drive sedan, whatever be it. I think he'd go deep into the research and he'd come back to you, but he would definitely reply to your comments. Comments is a good way to keep a conversation going, to keep a healthy environment for both the content creator and yourself, the audience. You might have questions that he might not have addressed to till now, but then if you're going to post your comments and he's going to go through your comments, obviously at a later date he will definitely come out with a video that addresses those concerns, suggestions you require, etc. Apart from that, my humble personal request is for you guys to help the channel grow. um, Inshallah, in the coming future we have a lot of viewers, we have ideas. Hopefully if the channel goes big, we'll have funds to allocate to different builds, different experiences, maybe sports in different disciplines. I've been a biker. I love sports bikes. I love supercars. I like cars, trucks, bikes. We might be able to engage into a wider area, uh, kind of delivering to not just the off-road enthusiasts but motoring enthusiasts as a whole, as a community. Maybe we can grow together, we can share feedbacks together, subscribe, like, share the video so that we can enhance the footprint, if I may say so. Rimdat Bhajan was very grateful to me for being on the channel. It's a passion. I love talking. You might have realized, and plus it's an honor for me to be on the channel. So I'm looking in the future for a lot of more collabs, like maybe not YouTubers, but fellow off-roaders, friends that we've made, family that we have. It eventually becomes a family. So help grow the channel. Help as the more the channel grows, the more information and the more adventures we can embark on. Hang on, because there's a lot coming forward. I think off-road drives, different locations. I hope I'll be able to come back to the sport someday. But till then, Rahindad Bhajan has a lot of plans for the channel, and I wish him all the success, inshallah, Ameen, and beyond.
Thank you once again. And yes, he is right. Do subscribe to the channel.
Like and
this
share,
is
yeah.
share, comment, and do subscribe, because I have noticed that I have a lot of viewers, but not all my viewers have subscribed to the channel. So, and it does help. Every subscription helps. I wake up every morning. Even if I see one more subscription, it makes me so happy. So do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one with another interview.
So we have all these views, like Rahindad Bhajan mentioned, yeah, and you guys are not subscribing. I mean, see, it every channel is going to follow a pathway. Every channel is going to grow eventually with the support of the viewers. So if you're going to subscribe, it's going to help him deliver better content. It's going to encourage his morale. It's going to make him make better quality videos, better equipment, better coverage, more drives, more. I mean, we'll get deep into this, inshallah. If you guys subscribe, if you don't, the boogeyman's going to come for you.
And with
Nah,
that,
just kidding.
with that, we'll see you on the other side. Good night.